Scenes like this peppered throughout Beaver Creek. Look at this huge tree just ripped straight from its roots, and so much debris absolutely everywhere. Take a look at this construction debris. These are trusses, but I'm looking around and there's nothing like this anywhere. These might have come from a neighborhood perhaps a quarter mile down. I'm standing out in the middle of 4th Street because they have it closed down. It's been closed down since 1 o'clock this afternoon when this collapse occurred. At this intersection, the police say the woman ran a red light, hit the police officer. The police officer went flying past that telephone pole, up the stairs, and right into Marco's Market. This barge that was heading upriver towards Cincinnati apparently came into contact with the Ludlow Bromley Yacht Club. This fire started at about 10:35 this morning. You can see it's still very much involved. Black and white smoke pluming into the sky right now. Whether it is a water pipe or rolling papers, you will no longer have to wink and tell people, hey, it's just for tobacco. I didn't put on a jacket today. It is just gorgeous, but I think there might be something wrong with my phone. It keeps saying December 26th on it. I have to tell you something. The weather here, so gorgeous. People were out skiing today in t-shirts and shorts.
Barge that crushed the Ludlow Bromley Yacht Club last week is now back in service, but there are still some unanswered questions about that collision.
Yeah, David Winter takes us aboard a towboat searching for possible answers.
To get a better idea of what may have happened at the Ludlow Bromley Yacht Club, we hopped aboard a towboat and headed upriver on the Ohio.
We go full ahead. You can hear the turbo start whistling now.
And no one better to ask than Captain J.D. Arnold, who's been pushing barges up and down the Ohio for 45 years. He says there are really only 3 reasons why the collision could have occurred.
It could have been weather-related, mechanical, or incapacitation.
Incapacitation could be anything from a medical issue to the person at the helm falling asleep. Captain Arnold says towboats all have some type of dead man's alarm.
If you nod off and don't move these rudders for so long, a minute, then it sets off an alarm. So we've got safeguards in place, but in a minute, a lot of things can happen too if you're in a tight area.
The captain says the alarm can also be manually turned off.
These are for the rudders. They move back and forth, they steer the boat.
Lead deckhand Damian Warner takes us into the engine and steering rooms. If something were to happen wrong, like mechanically, this is a pretty likely place it's going to happen.
That's right.
And Damian says it can and does happen.
It can leak out real bad, or they can even come apart. You know, we've had them come apart before too, which is very dangerous because where we steer the boat.
May to Hines, northbound below Straight Creek.
We actually boarded this morning before dawn. We wanted to be underway while it was dark, just like when the collision occurred at Ludlow Bromley. The captain says modern electronics make the river nearly as easy to navigate at night as it is during the day. But day or night, fatigue can set in.
At the end of the watch, you're up walking around sometimes trying to stay awake. You're ready to go to bed, and nothing going on. You get bored.
Back in the daylight, the captain tells us the boats have a black box of sorts, which will likely have a lot of information for investigators. Of course, to find out exactly what did happen aboard the boat and the barge that hit the Ludlow Bromley Yacht Club, we'll just have to wait to hear from the Coast Guard in its final report. David Winter, Local 12 News.
And the National Waterways Foundation reports for every 1 barge injury and every 1 barge fatality, there are many more rail and semi-trailer casualties. The Coast Guard reports nationally an average of 21 towboat barge collisions have occurred every year over the past 18 years. The Coast Guard doesn't expect to release its findings regarding the Ludlow Bromley collision for several more weeks, if not months. Of course, we'll keep you posted. Investigation reveals an area school district is failing its kids.
The Kentucky Department of Education found Newport Independent Schools is among the lowest performing districts in the state.
It has been for years, and the state says that in some cases it's getting worse. David Winter has more.
The Kentucky Department of Education has Newport Independent Schools on its radar. All of Newport's schools score in Kentucky's bottom 5%. Now, we obtained 4 internal KDE audits that show substantial deficiencies in how the district is teaching its kids.
How was the day? What'd you do?
Jacob McCoy is a fifth grader at Newport Intermediate. His mom, Ashley, meets him after school every day. Their 3-block walk home is just about the first time in his day that Jacob feels completely safe.
I don't even like school because I get bullied.
Ashley is beside herself.
He cries every day because he don't want to go. As me as a parent, I can't force him. I have to force him to go, and it's hard.
Ashley and Jacob's situation is not unique. The Kentucky Department of Education in late January ordered performance audits of Newport Independent Schools. They reveal low expectations for students, a lack of instructional plans for the district, and administrators who rule by intimidation and fear. The audits reviewed data from Newport Intermediate. The school performed below state averages in all state assessments. 7th and 8th grade girls had no proficiency in science. It does not get any better for the primary school. Only 35% of classrooms were found to engage in rigorous coursework or discussion. Here's a little perspective from the website schoolgrades.org. It bases its grades on how schools would rank internationally in comparison with the performance of students in more than 60 countries on the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA exam. School Grades shows that you would have to go to school in Mexico, Chile, Thailand, or Kazakhstan to find students of similar ability to those at Newport Intermediate. An F.
I had a pile of 40 desks on top of 2 teachers' desks. Most of them were broken. It was gross.
Lila Campbell used to teach at Newport Intermediate. She says that she was let go 3 days prior to retiring from the district because she spoke out against bullying in Newport schools. We were unable to verify that personnel matter, but she does agree with the audits, claiming intimidation, fear, and bullying are the norm for both students and teachers.
It's just really sad for those kids.
The audits show a further decline in 3rd and 6th grade reading scores and in 7th and 8th grade math.
So we were a little bit shocked with the report. I personally not accepted it.
District administrators earlier this month held a special meeting to discuss the assessments. Superintendent Kelly Middleton even labeled chairs to represent some sources in the audit in order to discredit the reports. Assistant Superintendent Amy Gilkison claims that parts of the audits are biased and untrue, and that some sources interviewed had vengeful motives.
But our biggest concern is, was the process really followed to fidelity? Is our report valid or not?
The first step toward improvement is acknowledgement of the fact that there are some areas of growth.
We caught up with the Kentucky Commissioner of Education at a tech leadership conference in Lexington. He says KDE is working together with the district on improvement efforts.
Could I use additional state resources to support that work? Absolutely.
But is the problem a lack of funding? Is Newport's poor performance due to a higher level of poverty in the area? Look at Blanchester Public Schools in Ohio. 89% of kids there are on free or reduced lunch. That's more than Newport. Teachers there get paid $10,000 a year less than teachers in Newport. And they have 50% more students per teacher. But Blanchester is 79% better in reading and 65% better in math. It's little consolation for Jacob McCoy, who says he wants to go into law enforcement.
So I decided to be a police officer.
Maybe you can stop some people from bullying others. Should parents in Newport be hopeful that things are going to improve for their children?
I think they should be cautiously optimistic.
The audits do show increased proficiency in 8th grade reading, increased professional development for teachers, and solid fiscal management. Now, the Kentucky Department of Education has given the district 30 days to put a plan in place for improvement, but KDE has no recourse should the district not comply. KDE says that the local school board is the only body that can discipline district administration, and it is up to the voters to hold the school board accountable. Back to you.
David, thank you. There are 3 other schools in the area on the bottom 5% of the list: Holmes Middle School in Covington, R.A. Jones Middle School in Boone County, and Silver Grove Elementary.
problems leading to fatal crashes. On the surface, it seems like it would be an easy problem to fix.
But as David Winter discovered, for truck drivers, it's far from simple. And for lawmakers, it's apparently pretty complicated.
Ask most of these truckers driving by, they will tell you it's their #1 issue, and it's only getting worse. The lack of parking for truckers is forcing them to put themselves and others at risk. 3 times in the last 6 months in the Cincinnati area.
The Ohio State Highway Patrol investigates a deadly crash at a rest stop on I-75.
Cars rear-end semis parked on off-ramps. These are the images and the costs of a growing and deadly problem, a lack of parking for semis.
And take a look on all the off-ramps. It's trucks on all the off-ramps, man.
Cliff Brown is one of 3 million truckers in the U.S., a number expected to grow by 67% in the next 20 years. As the numbers grow, regulators are limiting driving hours to keep truckers from driving tired.
Most of these drivers, back in the old days, they would cheat a lot.
To do what?
To get more hours. They'd take pills and they would drive all night, 24 hours straight.
The feds now require electronic logging devices, or ELDs. Truckers are forced to take more breaks, longer breaks, and they cannot cheat because the ELDs keep them honest. When their time is up, they need to get off the road or face fines or termination.
And I've been doing this 15 years, and it's getting to where it's just a hassle.
Jess Cook says he's not tired, but he was about to go past his hours and had to stop.
Truck stops are getting to where they are getting full by 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening.
Forcing trucks to park on off-ramps, on-ramps, and on the shoulder. Ohio and Indiana have the 2nd and 3rd most truck parking in the country. But Ohio ranks 39th in space availability because so many trucks traverse the state. A study in Kentucky reveals nearly 90% of truck parking is in use at night. Is there enough parking in Ohio for truck drivers?
I don't think there will ever be enough.
The Ohio Department of Transportation recognizes the problem.
We haven't just sat back and said, well, truck drivers just got to figure it out. We've launched this system that helps them to plan ahead. We've added truck parking at this facility and a sister facility on the other side of I-71 here in Warren County.
The new rest areas add 24 new truck slots. ODOT also points to its mobile app allowing truckers to see rest area availability, which also ties into freeway displays. But these systems seem to illustrate the problem as opposed to solving it. This sign on I-75 shows 4 slots available for trucks at the next rest area, but when we pulled in about 2 minutes later, the slots were filled, and trucks were forced to pass through and park on the ramp. And perhaps the reason they are so willing to park on ramps, the truckers with whom we spoke say, the police in Ohio look the other way. We asked the Ohio State Highway Patrol about it.
I mean, every situation is different. If it's an imminent risk for safety, we're gonna have to move that truck.
Is every off-ramp an imminent safety risk, or are there safe off-ramps?
Well, so it depends.
Lieutenant Sellers says truckers need to plan ahead and park safely, but truckers say they cannot plan for stopped traffic or getting held up at a shipper or receiver. So what's the answer?
What's the answer? More parking.
I found 23 state and national studies over the past 20 years at a cost of tens of millions of dollars to taxpayers that all said the same thing: there is a lack of truck parking. I spoke with one trucker who said he could have told me that for free, and it's time to stop studying the problem and start fixing it. David Winter, Local 12 News.
And we spoke to the author of a yet-to-be-released U.S. Department of Transportation study. One of the recommendations is for states to tie together all their parking apps into one so that truckers have one single source for finding open parking spots. He also told us that states and the feds need to spend more money on more parking. Victims' Compensation Fund has a loophole that is disqualifying many people from the program who truly need the money. David Winter is investigating the program, and he's here now to tell us what he's found. David.
Well, Kami, the program's designed to compensate victims of violent crime and their survivors if victims are murdered. But it turns out a lot of those survivors end up paying all of their own bills because they're paying for a crime that the victim may have committed before his death. It happened in the flash of an eye and with the flash of a muzzle. Daniel Chaz Dudley killed in Colerain Township.
Because my son was an innocent passenger in a car, and he was murdered.
Hope Dudley was Chaz's mom. While she was grieving the loss of her son, she lost wages, had to pay for the funeral, and helped take care of his 5 children. She applied for funds through the Ohio Attorney General's office, the Victims' Compensation Fund, meant for family members who were innocent victims of violent crime, to be used for things like counseling, lost wages, financial support for dependents, and funeral and burial costs. So you would think Hope would be the perfect candidate to receive compensation. But she was denied because there are several disqualifying factors, like if the crime were not reported, if the victims don't cooperate with law enforcement, or if the victim committed certain felonies in the past 10 years. Hope did not know about her son's drug felony from years before his death. She was denied compensation through the fund. Now Hope works as a victim's advocate for the Ohio Attorney General's office, helping other victims navigate the system, even though the system failed her in more ways than one.
I miss him. His case is still unsolved, searching for justice. It's just devastating.
If changes are going to be made to how the Victims' Compensation Fund is distributed, it would have to come from the legislature. Now, we did call 12 different state senators and representatives today, but only one, Bridget Kelly, who represents a district with quite a few innocent victims, said that she would investigate the matter. Cammie?
All right, keep us posted, David. Crime Victims Compensation Fund is supported through court fines, fees, and settlements. In 2018, $7.3 million was used from the fund to assist more than 2,700 people.
And the Weather Authority forecast. This is Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday, live on Local 12.
Severe weather turns deadly down south. What we're learning about destruction from tornadoes. And a close call at a local Kroger will show you what happened when a truck gets loose from a dock.
And we have the wedding dress. That can only mean one thing. Wedding planning season is here. And I know picking out the dress can be difficult. So coming up on Local 12, we're going to help you out.
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Winter. Let's get straight to meteorologist Brad Mousehart for the latest on those deadly storms across the South. Brad.
Powerful winter storm that pushed through here unleashed an outbreak of tornadoes across the South. It's all a part of your full Weather Authority forecast. David will have that for you in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Brad. People that live in a Corryville apartment complex should be feeling very lucky this morning after a close call last night. Check out what happened at a Kroger store there. The brakes on a semi apparently failed as it was parked at a loading dock. The semi began rolling towards the apartment building nearby, but not so luckily for a car that happened to be parked right in front of the building. The truck hit it first. Thankfully, no one was in the car at the time and no other injuries were reported. The driver of this car, not as lucky. This is the old Macy's downtown you might recognize on 5th and Race Streets. Police say shortly after noon yesterday, the driver had a seizure, lost control, and crashed into those huge windows out front. Crews spent a better part of the day cleaning up that scene. That building, of course, has been vacant for a while now. Emergency crews say the driver will be okay. Inspectors are now checking to make sure the structural integrity of that building is still sound. Well, following a neighborhood crime alert out of the West End, Cincinnati police are asking for your help as they look for 3 suspects who robbed people as they were trying to deliver furniture. The band of robbers hit last Saturday as people were moving the furniture on Hopkins Street near Lynn. They say 2 men and a woman walked up, pulled guns, and began taking stuff from the truck and the movers. Police say the 3 then ran away and none of the movers were hurt. Police also still trying to find 3 suspects in a Bond Hill shooting from last weekend. This apparently was an attempted carjacking. Police say it happened last Sunday night on Reading Road near Seymour. The driver says he was parked when 3 people in masks pulled guns and demanded his car. After getting the keys, one of the suspects apparently shot him in the leg. The 3 then left the victim's car and got away in another vehicle, possibly a silver SUV. If you can help, police ask that you call Crime Stoppers at 513-352-3040. Kentucky State Police have put out an alert for a missing inmate. 38-year-old Wayne Eldridge Weeks went missing yesterday from the Christian County Detention Center. He was on work release. Authorities say he could be in the northern Kentucky area since he has ties to Mount Olivet, and that's about 60 miles southeast of Cincinnati. He's 6 feet tall, weighs about 260 pounds. If you know anything about the missing inmate, the Kentucky State Police ask that you contact them immediately. For the first time in Hamilton County history, and only the second time in state history, Hamilton County will have an all-female and majority African-American county commission. The Hamilton County Democratic Central Committee has chosen Victoria Parks to finish out Todd Portune's term. The committee made the decision yesterday after Portune resigned in December to deal with his battle with cancer. Parks was Portune's chief of staff, and he had requested the committee choose her to fill in until the election. Parks says that she has mixed feelings about the opportunity.
I miss him, and I'm sorry this is happening, but I am so proud that he has confidence in my ability, and so I will continue to fulfill his policy agenda.
Again, the appointment is only to finish out Portune's term through this year. The primary for this commissioner position is just a couple of months away in March, and it's already looking to be a hotly contested primary for Democrats. But it does look like the commission will remain all female. Former Cincinnati Vice Mayor and State Representative Alicia Reese has announced that she is running. Also running is former State Representative Connie Pillich. Victoria Parks has not given a definitive answer yet about whether she will be running for that permanent post. A 5-year-old boy is now the top money raiser in his quest to find a cure for his own lung issues. Team Keegan was out in full force yesterday at Morningstar Pottery in Alexandria. Keegan Smith lives with a chronic lung disease and uses oxygen everywhere he goes. Bless his little heart. His family and friends are raising money for the American Lung Association's Fight for Air climb. That's in February. They'll climb Carew Tower's 45 floors and 804 stairs. Keegan's mom hopes that he can be strong enough one day to live out his dream of becoming a firefighter.
I'd love to find either cures for the lung diseases, or even in our perfect world right now, find equipment that can help him be more independent.
75% of the money spent at Morningstar Pottery will be donated to Team Keegan. New Orleans is getting ready for tomorrow night's college football national championship game. Louisiana State and Clemson have already arrived in the Big Easy. They're practicing and making media appearances. To talk about that big game, reporters are asking the team's quarterbacks their opinions about each other.
People get a little too caught up in just me versus him.
I'm excited to compete against him.
The big game starts tomorrow night at 8. Well, if you're planning on getting married this afternoon, you're in luck. The Cincinnati Wedding Showcase is here. Local 12's Clancy Burke is there. She's live at the Convention Center in Sharonville with a look at what's in store for the big day. Clancy, I knew you were going to put on a dress. You look fabulous.
David, it wasn't planned, and then when you said it, I was like, you know what? We're going to do what David said. But for now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
You do seem a bit panicky in the dress right now. All you need is a groom, and I think I hear the phones ringing out in the newsroom right now. A lot of volunteers. Bye. No?
Bye.
Oh, she's walking away. She's out. All right. Tickets at the door are $10, or you can go online for a $2 discount. Well, both Xavier and UC had important conference games this weekend. Local 12 sports anchor Jed DeMusi tells us how they did. That's coming up next on Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday. Stick around. Chilly morning under some beautiful gray skies. Look at all those different shades of gray. Downtown Cincinnati looking gorgeous this morning. Look at all that traffic. Hope you haven't had to battle that. Now we're going to head over to Jed DeMusi for morning sports.
Good morning. Here's a look at sports this Sunday. I'm Jed DeMusi. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend.
All right, thanks, Jed. Today, your final day to enjoy the Cavalcade of Customs at the Duke Energy Center. Custom cars, that is. You'll find floor after floor of cool cars, including hot rods, customs, and trucks. Mike Finnegan, the host of the show Hot Rod Garage, will be there today from 1 until 4. Spider-Man also making the rounds at the show. Make sure you don't bump into his web. And the Snowbanks at the Banks event resumes today after being canceled Friday and Saturday. The winter-themed event downtown features snow made by a machine because it's not being made by Mother Nature lately. pickup hockey, that big snow hill for tubing, and a whole lot more. The event is running weekends through January. Looks like fun. And if you'd like to take a trip to Africa, you need to go no further than the Aronoff Center. The national touring production of The Lion King is now up and running. It's one of the most successful shows in Broadway history, of course. It's been playing there for more than 20 years. It opened last week, and it runs until February 2nd. Shows are Tuesday through Thursday evenings, and then there are matinees, of course, and evening shows. That's Friday through Sunday. High atop one of Mount Auburn's hillsides sits the boyhood home of William Howard Taft. That home is the only National Historic Site in Cincinnati, and it's being managed by the National Park Service. This morning, Skyview 12 gives us a view of the home from up above.
We're free, and we'd love to have you.
That video way too sunny to have been taken this morning.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to fly yesterday either. It was too windy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We had those gusts at times over in Dayton, up to 80 miles an hour. So
Holy
they saw
moly.
some damage up there. We here in the tri-state by itself, all above average.
All right, thanks, Brad. The SPCA is open for adoptions on Sundays, and we're going to see a couple of furry friends that you could take home. That's coming up next on Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday. A reason to go, aw. Nikita Gaffney from the SPCA has a couple of adoptable animals to show us.
Good morning, SPCA Cincinnati back with more adoptable pets. Make it a great morning.
Yeah, that was one active puppy. The college football national championship game is tomorrow. What the two quarterbacks are saying about the matchup, that's coming up just ahead. But first, volcanic activity in the Philippines. The evacuation's being ordered after signs of a possible eruption. That's coming up next on Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday.